it's very important to talk about spiritual gurus and spirituality simply because sometimes spiritual gurus or spirituality has the key to life or the key to existence, and there's so much knowledge in there, so much helpful knowledge in there, and it's important to talk about it also to make sure that people really understand what spirituality is and what it actually can give you. What is it that spirituality or a spiritual guru can give you? Well, a spiritual guru or a teacher, a real teacher, a Dhamma teacher, or an insight guru, a person of insight, a guru of insight and teaching abilities, is able to give you how to live your life in the best way possible for you. I mean, he can help you to find that approach to existence, to life, which will be the best thing for you. How do you want to live it? What kind of psychological paradigm do you want to live in? How much do you want to suffer? How much do you want to be at peace? How much do you want to be happy? How do you want to feel? A real teacher can tell you everything about this. He can teach you everything about this. He can tell you everything that you need to know. Because he knows everything. Really. And that's why spiritual teachers or teachers, I mean a real teacher, or whatever kind of teacher it is, a real teacher can teach you anything that you want to know. He can teach you absolutely anything, whatever it is, he can teach you. So it's very important. But there are so many spiritual gurus out there today in the world today that is simply they have become a guru because they have understood something that another guru has said, who has understood what Ramana Maharshi says, and who has understood what Adi Shankara says, and who has understood the meaning of the ultimate absolute, of the ultimate reality, and how we should live as a vehicle, so to speak, for the ultimate reality to be realized as that which we are in our nature. For instance, this is just an example. You know, all these things are possible, but these gurus are usually seen as singular gurus and gods or demigods by the disciples, because the disciples, they don't know anything. So when they come to this guru, they think that, oh my God, he's so clever. But actually all that he has done is actually to understand something that another person has done before him, you know. There is, I mean, usually it is Ramana Maharshi and Nisargadatta Maharaj who are the stepping stones or the platforms on which these gurus exist. And these are people who have understood a core message of Nisargadatta Maharaj, or a core message of the true meaning of Ramana Maharshi. You know, that's what they have done, that's what they have understood. Nothing more, nothing less. And according to their intellect, they are able to expose this truth in a way that gives meaning to us or to other people, to people who listen to their expositions and teachings. And what is it exactly that this spirituality or these insights can give us? The exact thing that spirituality can give us is the knowledge and the acceptance of the acknowledgement of the ultimate absolute, of that which is but isn't, of that which is that which we call neti neti. You cannot explain it, you cannot say what it is, because it is actually non-existence, it doesn't exist. It is the ultimate absolute which doesn't exist, in a way. The ultimate absolute doesn't exist, and that's why it is the ultimate absolute, because that's what the world is standing on. Everything in our perception is resting on, standing on the platform of the ultimate absolute, because this is what gives space the ability and the possibility to be spaciousness. This ultimate reality, this ultimate voidness, is necessary for all life. So a real teacher will tell you how to acknowledge the ultimate reality on that which everything else exists within and stands on and has in itself as a constituent natural part. Same as the atom, the atom is 98% empty space. So the recognition of the ultimate absolute also as a part of our own nature, as that which we always relate to because we have it in our own nature. That's what spirituality can give you. And this is enough to save a person's life from psychological neurosis, It's enough to get us out of the blind program of mental attachments to a certain program in us, to a certain way of thinking that gives us suffering and stress and paranoia and anxiety and depression and hopelessness, in a way. The fact that we are able to realize our own redemption and liberation within the ultimate absolute, as a part of the ultimate absolute, as something that is not afraid of the ultimate absolute, because the ultimate absolute is the platform on which everything else exists on and within. So this is the one thing that spirituality can give you. The second thing is your own experience of your own heart, soul, essence, self, the beingness, the I amness. The I amness, the beingness inside of us, that which is a recognition of our own existence. The witness of consciousness, the knower of consciousness, that in us which knows that we exist. That in us which is the knower of consciousness, that in us which is the experience of our beingness itself. So there are two levels on this. The upper level is the knower of consciousness. That's perhaps, it's on the upper level. It's in the mind, in the mind-heart level. Let's say in the mind-heart level. And the experience of our own beingness in the Atman heart, is in the Brahman region of the human being, which means in the soul, heart, chest region, So these two things are what spirituality directly and most of all can give you. And this is two tremendously important parts. The first part is the ultimate absolute, the recognition and the acknowledgement of the ultimate absolute. And then, secondly, your own ability to be in the experience of your own Atman self, of your own soul self, of your own I amness in the heart, of your own beingness. When you are the knower of consciousness, you are in that which we can say Parabrahman. You are in the God behind the God. You are in the point prior to any creation. You are prior to consciousness. You are that which exists before anything else. In the absolutely original first point in the world, before things get into creation, into perception, into consciousness, into manifestation of any kind. And then when you are in the experience of your own Atman self, of your own beingness, of your own soul-heart existence, you are in the Brahman region, we could say, in the God region, in that which is the experience of experience itself, in that which is the experience of the soul-heart essence in itself. These are the things that spirituality can give you, and this is what is meant by true yoga. True yoga is to come into your own experience of your own beingness. That is the true classic orthodox yoga. It is not to stretch your legs or lie down on your back and raise your arm and say hallelujah. The true classic orthodox yoga is the yoga of the self, which means the yoga of the unification of the different soul-heart energies within the totality of the human psyche and organism. Not only psyche, of course, because that's a mental thing, psychological thing, a brain thing, consciousness thing, but also, of course, with all in the organism. I mean, all the chakras and all that are very famous, and how to organize the different energies in either in chakras or in your own organism is a much deeper and more subtle process than just the understanding of the different chakras. So in order to come to the ultimate absolute, sometimes they need the Banana Republic, and the Banana Republic is the theology of gurus who are stuck in Kali Yuga and in Sat Yuga and blah, 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 and they will never finish, They will never finish. It will always be the duality between the mistaken world that we live in and the promised land, the God heart realization of pure ultimate reality in Christ heart beingness. That duality will always exist, because of course the latter will never happen other than in the human being itself, other than in the human being himself or herself. So it is important, before we attach and go crazy about gurus, we have to understand that what is it that this guru can give me? Well, this guru can give me the key to my own existence. This is true. The true guru can give me the key to my own life. A true guru can give me that which I need to know about everything. But that key, if it is within a spirituality tradition and discipline, it will always rest on these two pillars: the acknowledgement of the ultimate absolute as a part of our nature, and perhaps as the true nature in any kind of nature, in every part of nature, and our own experience of the beingness that we are, the experience of the I amness in which we live, the experience of the self, of the soul heart self, which is the Atman self. So there is an Atman self, a soul heart Atman self, and there is an ultimate reality part. The ultimate reality part is that which everything stands on and exists within. It's the Pada Brahman, it's the ultimate reality, it's the God behind God. And then it's the experience of the beingness itself, which is the Atman part and the Brahman part and the God part, you could say, the world part, that which has come into being. So you have that which is prior to consciousness, and you have that which is within consciousness. That's the duality within spirituality, and within our own life, within our own makeup as well. And when I say makeup, I mean, of course, the architecture of the mental system, so to speak. So these are the two things that spirituality can give you. It can give you the key to your own life. It can give you that which you need in order to see how you should relate to the production mechanism that you are as a human program in this world. And it can show you how you can relate psychologically to the different parts that you have inside of yourself in a way that do not end up in spiritual bypass. Because that's not what we're talking about here. Many of the gurus that I'm referring to, but I'm not giving the names because that's just going to get me in a lot of trouble. unfortunately, because truth is that which ultimate reality is all about. But we don't have enough maturity in the world to go about in a complete truthful way, unfortunately. But what was I saying? I was saying that we are not talking about spiritual bypass. Some of these gurus are, of course, living in spiritual bypass. If you exist on world number 2, which means the abstraction of this world, or if you always insist on the world that is only the pure Christ heart and the God heart in this world, then you're living in your own projection and you're living in your own self-created cartoon, or even it's not your self-created cartoon, you just read about it in all the Hindu scriptures that you're so devoted to or whatever, you know. So it's just a cartoon, it's just a projection. And some people live in that spiritual bypass. But in order to not end up in a spiritual bypass, we have to acknowledge the whole organism that we are. And the whole organism that we are has a lot of neuroses in the body, parts that carry trauma, energy blocks, resistance, fear, anxiety, many aspects that don't come to our consciousness and mental life, but which exists in our organism in some way or another, and we can release that through all the different technologies of therapy. There are so many different therapies, and I've spoken very favorably about one particular psychological therapy, which is IFS, which is a very clarifying process. Indeed. And there are many processes, of course, but the main thing is that we're not going to end up in spiritual bypass. We're just going to realize our full nature, and we're going to find a way to live with ourselves that actually only spiritual or even religious experiences and paradigms, so to speak, can give us, because psychology is not enough. Psychology is not enough, and emotional therapy is not enough. We need a very deep, very deep indeed, penetrating insight. We need a penetrating insight, because only a penetrating insight can truly set us free, because only a penetrating insight is something that we can accept. The inner child in us, or the higher self in us, can actually only accept truth, because we know what bullshit is. We know when something is a lie. We know when something is a cartoon. We know when something is fake. And there are a lot of fake stuff in the real gurus too. Please know this. Many gurus who are real gurus, they have a lot of fake stuff and a lot of cartoons in them, but these cartoons are helpful in a way when it comes to exposing the truths or the recognitions or the insights that they want to expose. So this is something that's very important to understand. What is it that spirituality can give you, and what is it that more traditional psychological therapy can give you? Because we need both. Because if you go to spiritual bypass and you're still having a lot of neurosis in your subconscious or in your inner life that you're not aware of, it will always show up in you. As Bessel van der Kolk says, the body keeps the score. The nervous system keeps the score. The nervous system is like a huge library, the Library of Congress, the Library of Alexandria. Our nervous system and the brain and the body keeps the score. And that's why physical therapy, emotional therapy, psychological therapy is just as important for us as deep penetrating insights. But deep penetrating insights and the acceptance of deep penetrating insights that we really truly relate to and accept as true can be very, very helpful because we need something that we accept as true. Because to live in a world that is only a salad and a soup of fakeness, of things that we don't actually believe in because we know it's just fake, we know it's bullshit, we know that it's just a story, we know that it's just a narrative, we know that it's just a discourse. We know it's just a language game, and that's what it is. That's what culture is. Culture and the media are language games that interact. That's what culture is. Culture is a certain set of language games that interact with each other. That's what culture is. And the media is the same. The media is a set of language games that interact. It's a soup of language games. They say, if you're up to date when it comes to the news, you are unaware of the real business. I mean, you will end up as a superstitious person because you're being fed news that are not actually correct. They're not actually true. So this is the Maya of the world. And the Maya of the world is related to thought and language. Thought and language is the real Maya of this world. When we believe in the validity of thought and language, then we believe in the validity of the Maya that we experience. I've talked about this an endless amount earlier on, that the deepest problem within humanity is the belief in the validity of thought and language, because the belief in the validity of thought and language, that's what Maya is in a way. That's what the veil that covers the world is. When we remove thought and language, then we can experience reality in a real sense, because the layer of thought and language, which we call reality at times, is not reality. They are just discourse. It's discourse, it's narratives, it's cartoons, it's thought and language. It's the dressing on the steak, and the dressing will just cover the steak, It will hide the steak. It will hide the truth. So if you want to come to das Ding an sich, as Immanuel Kant says, you have to remove the dressing. And the dressing is thought and language. That's just how it is. The dressing is thought and language. That is the Maya layer of that which our own minds relate to, And when we throw away that, we can get deeper analysis. And we can develop and cultivate a much more profound or authentic kind of language and a more authentic kind of discourse, because it's not built on discourse itself, but it's built on actual experience. The fault of all the academic resources, or the fault of academia, is mainly that every discourse is built on another discourse. It's all intertextual. Everything is intertextual in the world of academia. And that's why it's such a thin, little, helpless discipline. But when you develop a discourse that is derived from experience, then you come mostly into the metaphors of religion and spirituality, and of deeper archetypal psychology. Because it's built on experience. We have to accept a certain kind of metaphors, because that's what thought and language is. Language is a set of metaphors. So we have to accept that, but we should derive our true discourse, our thinking, from experience itself, and not from discourse itself. And that's the sickness of the world, all the media world, all the Facebook world, all the social media, and all of politics is just built on discourse. Politics is built on politics. Media is built on media. Thought and language is built on thought and language. It does not come from true experience itself, so it doesn't come from authority. It comes from second-hand knowledge. So we're living in a world full of second-hand knowledge, because it doesn't come from authority, so to speak. It doesn't come from experience or reality. It comes from already established language games. It comes from propaganda. It comes from fake news. The news is built on something that is already fake news. The platform on which we build our news is already fake, so it's a discourse building on discourse, it's a narrative building on a narrative. And it's endless. The world of the media is endless. The academic world is endless because it's a narrative built on narrative. It's a discourse built on discourse. It's a way of thinking built on another way of thinking. It's a perspective built on another perspective. And this is that which produces the world of intellect, but and in many cases also science and research. But that's why it's very important to go to the roots, and that's why spirituality and religion and introspection, introspective capabilities is very important, because without the element of experiential insight, experiential knowledge, without that, we will always be in a narrative built on another narrative. We will always be in a language game built on another language game. We will always be in a thought. We will always be in a thought built on another thought. We will be in one concept and one conceptualization built on another concept and another conceptualization. So this is why spirituality is so important, because it's a way out of the discourse. It's a way out of the narrative. Spirituality, which is the true yoga, the experience of the self, the merging with the true self, or the merging, the unification of the Atman self with the ultimate absolute, also, is a spiritual yogic discipline that gets you out of the discourse game. It gets you out of the narrative built on narratives. It gets you out on the conceptualizations. It gets you out of the language games. It gets you out of the second-hand perspective, of the second-hand paradigm. So that's why experience and the ability to trust our own experience and learn from it is really truly helpful and important if we are going to develop a better world, a deeper world, a more meaningful world, and a more meaningful life on an individual level, and a more correct and authentic life when it comes to true art, science, and philosophy. Because art, this is what art is about in my mind. Art is about the truth. And if art is about the truth, then art is about reducing the bullshit. It's about taking the lies away from the world. It's about reducing the dressing. It's about washing away all the sugar and the sauce, so that we can come to das Ding an sich, in a way, so that we can come to the experience of phenomenons in itself. That's what true art is about. So art is a part of philosophy. Art is a part of science. Art is the deepest form of philosophy. Art is the deepest form of science, because it is that which goes to the core as experiential reality. We cannot say that which goes to the core of truth, because we don't exactly know what truth is, but we can say that which goes to the core of experiential reality, that which goes to the core of experiential reality. If we have a language for that which is our experiential reality, we will be much better off, and we will be much more able to produce a culture that is good for the human being. A culture that is not built on narratives, that is not built on thinking, built on thinking, which of course it's unavoidable. It will always be like that. But my point is clear, and you can see it, that we need authentic experiential reality, not only in ourselves, but as a part of that which society is. And I absolutely think that, 2,000 years ago, we had societies around the globe that had this as a part of life. And we have lost it in a sense because we have become a narrative built upon another narrative. We have become a discourse. We have become a thinking machine. We have become a mind interacting with other minds. We have become language in a way. We have become ways of thinking. We have become discourse on two legs. We have become thoughts and thinking and conceptualizations. We have become language in a way. So we have lost the experiential reality that we all need as a core part of our inner being and of our inner being's reality, we could say. So this is an important part of that which spirituality includes and should include, and that sometimes psychology and other disciplines excludes. The academic world, the academia, of course, in its stupidity and blindness, excludes it more or less because they don't understand it, because the discourse built on another discourse can only relate to discourse, and if it's not a lot of footnotes to another discourse, then they won't accept the bullshit, The best bullshit that the academic world can get is that which is watertight and waterproof when it comes to the footnotes that refers to other discourses, which is just a language game, it's just language on language, it's just the dressing on the steak, it's just discourse, it's just thoughts. But unfortunately we don't have education that is deep enough in this world to enter into the holy abode, into the temple of the heart, into the experiential reality of the truth of the human heart itself. Da-da-da. Okay. But anyway, that's how it is possible to think. And this is how it's possible to think in our time, because our time is suffering from stupidity. 98% of the world is related to or built on stupidity, and 98% of this world are manifestations that in some way or another derives their validity from discourses and narratives that are only built on other discourses and other narratives. And before we destroy everything, which of course is coming close, because now it's the 30th of December 2022. Tomorrow is the Happy New Year Day, and the portal, tomorrow is the portal into 2023. So in order to develop that which we need to develop in the future, we have to accept to reduce the amount of stupidity. We have to accept to reduce the amount of sauce and sugar. We should enjoy the sugar that is available to us, but we should know that that's what it is. It's just a narrative, it's just discourse, it's just a language game. And what we need is experiential reality, which can come in unification with our own deepest, authentic, penetrating insights of that which we can call true or relate to as true, or at least as an authentic part of the reality in which we live and in which we relate to in everyday life, because we are the relationship to reality, The human being is the relationship to its own reality. We are our own relationship, in a way, to that which we experience. Because we are that which experience that which we experience. We are the experience itself of experience. And because we are the experience itself of experience, we have to make this as authentic and true as possible in order to make a better world and a much better and deeper and more authentic kind of humanity. Thank you.